I still remember that night as if it were carved into my memory with fire. It was October 14th, 10 years ago. The last time I saw my daughter, Emily, she stood at the front door with her backpack hanging off one shoulder. Her brown hair was messy from crying, her hands trembling, her voice barely steady. She was only 16, too young to walk away, too young to face a world that doesn't forgive softness. We had argued again. It wasn't even about something big, but small problems have a way of growing when a family is already breaking from the inside. I'd been working late shifts for months and barely noticed the sadness forming behind her eyes. When I tried to stop her that night, she looked at me with a pain I didn't understand until years later. "Dad, you don't even know who I am anymore," she whispered. The door clicked shut, and that was it. At first, the police treated it like another runaway case. They said teenagers come back in a day or two. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And somehow, months turned into years. Her phone was never found. Her bank card stayed untouched. Her social media froze, as if time itself refused to move forward. Every lead I chased ended in disappointment. Every promise of hope dissolved the moment I grabbed after it. 10 years passed like a slow bleeding wound that never healed. I never stopped searching. Grief turns you into a different kind of person. Someone who chases shadows. Someone who believes in miracles, but fears the truth behind them. Then yesterday morning, something changed. A plain white envelope appeared on my doorstep. No stamp, no name, no trace of who left it. Inside was a single photograph. It was Emily, older, alive, standing in front of a place I had never seen before. On the back, written in shaky handwriting, were 4 chilling words. "Don't look for." "Sir, after 10 years, with no evidence of harm, this doesn't give us much to work with. It could even be someone playing a cruel joke." A joke? My daughter's eyes in the picture held a fear no stranger could imitate. I left the station feeling more alone than ever. That night, sleep refused to come. I kept the photograph under my pillow, turning it over and over, searching for a clue. Any clue. Then, around 3 a.m., something caught my attention. Under the picture's corner, barely visible, were small scratches, lines, marks, as if someone had tried to carve something into the paper but stopped halfway. I fetched a magnifying glass from the drawer, my pulse racing. When I held it over the faint scratches, my blood turned cold. It wasn't random marks. It was a hidden message, one that Emily must have tried to leave behind. 3 letters, shaky, nearly erased, but clear enough to read. H-E-L. The rest was torn off. For a long moment, I simply stared at those 3 carved letters. H-E-L. My throat tightened. She had tried to write help. My daughter, who hadn't contacted me in 10 years, who vanished without a trace, had finally reached out. And she was in danger. But what danger? And why warn me not to look for her if she needed help? I pressed the torn edge of the photograph between my fingers. The rip wasn't natural. It looked forced. Like someone had hurriedly torn away the rest of her message, which meant someone else had handled this photo. Someone who didn't want me to see the full truth. I barely noticed my hands trembling as I sat down at the old kitchen table. I spread the picture under the light and stared at the background, the rusted metal gate, the faded sign. A dirt road. A shadow of a large building behind the fence. I took a deep breath and grabbed my laptop. If the sign said Ridge Haven, maybe it was a place, a town, a facility, a shelter, something. But every search led to nothing, or pages that looked wiped clean. It was as if the place didn't want to be found. Just as I was about to give up, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it might be a scam, but something in my chest pushed me to answer. When I picked up, there was no greeting, no introduction, just the crackle of static, and then a woman's voice, soft, shaky, almost broken. "Dad?" My heart stopped. It was her. Emily. Emily? Emily. "Where are you? Are you safe? Tell me." But she cut me off immediately, whispering frantically, "You shouldn't have searched the sign. They're watching. Dad, listen to me. Don't trust." Her voice cracked, and suddenly muffled sounds came through the phone. Footsteps? A door opening? A deep voice in the background. Then she screamed, short, terrified. The line went dead. And before I could call back, a new message appeared on my screen. A single text from the same number. I read the message over and over again, hoping the words would change. "If you want to see her again, come alone." My hands felt numb. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but fear was louder than logic. For 10 years, I had begged the universe for a single sign that Emily was alive. Now, that sign had arrived, wrapped in danger. A location followed seconds later. Just coordinates. No name, no explanation. The place was 3 hours away, deep into the mountains. No towns nearby. No cell service, according to the map. I called the police again, showed them everything. The photo, the hidden message, the call, the text. They warned me not to go. They said kidnappers often use false hope to lure desperate families. But this wasn't false hope. This was my daughter's voice. I packed a small bag before sunrise. No weapons, no phone trackers. Just the photograph, my wallet, and a decade's worth of regret. As I drove, the roads narrowed, trees pressing in from both sides like silent weir. The gate slammed shut behind me, with a sound that echoed through the empty valley. I turned, heart racing, but it wouldn't budge. No signal, no way out. Just the wind and the towering building ahead of me, silent and watching. Ridge Haven looked abandoned, but it didn't feel dead. The air was heavy, like the walls were still breathing secrets. I stepped inside through a cracked door, the smell of dust and rust filling my lungs. Old posters lined the hallway, smiling teenagers. Hopeful slogans about second chances and new beginnings. Lies printed in bright colours. As I walked deeper, memories surfaced. 10 years ago, Emily had mentioned a counsellor from school. A woman who promised help. A woman who said there were places that fixed troubled kids. I hadn't listened. I hadn't asked enough questions. A faint noise pulled me forward. Footsteps. I followed them down a long corridor into a room filled with filing cabinets. Most were empty. Some were locked. One drawer stood slightly open. Inside were old intake files, names, ages, dates. My hands froze when I saw hers. Emily Carter, age 16, status transferred. Transferred where? Before I could read further, a voice spoke from behind me. "You were never supposed to find this place." I turned slowly. A tall man stood in the doorway, face hidden in shadow. His voice was calm, almost kind, which made it worse. "Your daughter was special," he continued. "She survived longer than most." My chest burned. "Where is she?" He smiled faintly. That depends on what you're willing to sacrifice. Then the lights flickered on, and standing behind him, I saw her. Emily. But the girl looking back at me wasn't the child I lost. Her eyes were empty, and she whispered a sentence that shattered me completely. Dad, please don't make them angry. Seeing Emily standing there felt unreal, like my mind was breaking itself to survive the moment. She was thinner than the girl in the photograph, her shoulders slumped, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. The warmth in her eyes, the one thing I used to recognize, was gone. What replaced it was fear. Trained fear. I stepped toward her, but the man raised a hand. Emily flinched instantly, taking a step back without being told. That single movement told me everything I needed to know. They teach obedience here, the man said calmly. Resistance creates problems. My fists tightened. You hurt her. She was broken when she arrived, he replied. We simply reshaped her. Rage burned through me. But Emily shook her head ever so slightly. A warning. She was still protecting me, even now. The man walked to a metal desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a stack of documents. Your daughter has been officially declared missing for a decade. No legal ties, no identity. That makes her property. The word made my vision blur. She tried to leave once, he continued. That's when she sent you the photo. Brave, but foolish. The punishment was severe. Emily's fingers trembled. I swallowed hard and lowered my voice. Tell me what you want. The man finally looked pleased. Silence. You walk away. You forget this place exists. And she continues living. Living wasn't the right word. I looked at Emily, searching her face. For the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest. For any sign she still believed escape was possible. Her lips parted, and barely audible, she whispered something only I could hear. There's a way out, but only one of us can leave. Before I could ask what she meant, alarms suddenly blared through the building. Red lights flooded the hallway. The man's calm expression vanished as he turned toward the sound. What did you do? He demanded. Emily looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I pressed the button, she said, and armed guards began running towards. The alarm screamed through Ridgehaven like the building itself was crying out. Guards rushed in from every direction, their footsteps pounding like drums of death. I grabbed Emily's hand instinctively, but she pulled away, not in fear of me, but in acceptance of something she had already decided. Dad, listen to me, she said, her voice calm in a way that terrified me more than the alarms. This place doesn't let people leave. Not really. I shook my head violently. We're getting out. Together. She gave me a sad smile. The kind parents recognize instantly. The smile children give when they don't want to worry you, even though they're breaking inside. They'll hunt you forever if I go with you, she whispered. But if you leave alone, this ends tonight. Before I could react, she stepped back and slammed the heavy metal door between us. The locks clicked instantly. I pounded on it, screamed her name, begged, threatened. Nothing worked. Through the small glass window, I saw her turn to the guards who had stopped, confused by the locked door. She raised her hands calmly. She's mine, the tall man said, pushing past them. He looked at her with cold approval. Emily looked back at me one last time. Dad, she said softly through the glass, you finally came. That's enough for me. The guards dragged her away as I screamed until my voice gave out. I was released an hour later. No explanation. No paperwork. Just a warning to forget everything I had seen. 2 days after I returned home, the news reported a mysterious fire at an abandoned rehabilitation center in the mountains. No survivors were found. The cause was unknown. They said no records existed of anyone ever being held there. But every year on October 14th, I find a white envelope on my doorstep. Inside is a single piece of paper. No photograph. No address. Just 4 words, written in handwriting I know by heart. I'm finally free, Dad.